right, welcome back to another Earnings Lottos Power Half Hour Live. Today, March 3rd, Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. We don't really have that many names reporting this afternoon and tomorrow morning, but as you know, in the next half an hour or so, we are going to find the best movers or the best options for Earnings Lottos, meaning out of the money options lottos on either side. We will use EarningsLottos.com to do that. Feel free to visit the website and sign up. It's completely free. It doesn't require anything, just your email address, so I can send you emails every once in a while to just give you friendly reminders on how to support me. That's about it. But without further ado, let's jump into the deep dive for today and find that one that will move. This morning, obviously, if you're a trader, you know that the best move from yesterday was definitely MongoDB and Credo. I did not get Mongo myself, but for those who did get a strangle, you likely got paid very well this morning. So pat yourself on the back, give yourself a round of applause if you took MongoDB. Remember, with those high EL score stocks, it makes sense every single time to strangle them. Even if you have conviction one way or the other, if you are thinking for weeks leading up that MongoDB is going to go up after earnings, buy a put. If you're gonna buy a call, buy a put with some of these high EL scored stocks. It always makes sense to do that with something that has a high EL score. We'll take a look at some that might not have the highest EL score that report this afternoon and tomorrow morning, and I'll even probably suggest don't take a strangle on this. It doesn't make sense to strangle both sides. We'll get into the numbers on a little bit more of a finite level and take a look at some of those names. So without further ado, here's what we have this afternoon. So this afternoon reporting, we have GitLab, CrowdStrike, Ryanair, Advanced Materials. We got Box, we have Ross Stores, B&G Foods. We'll go through all of them one by one. We'll look at the narrative intel of each one by one. We'll check out the suggested option strangles that we're picking up, that EarningsLottos.com is picking up. And then I'll make suggestions. I'll talk about which ones I'm going to take, if any. And then I'll even probably throw out a few nuggets. So first off, we'll look at GitLab, tech company. If you're an engineer or a developer or someone that like a project manager, someone that works a lot with code, you likely have heard of GitLab. It's different than GitHub. I've been through GitLab training myself, and one of the first things the guy said was, this is different than GitHub. So if you're an engineer or developer, you know that. But for those of you that don't, GitLab is different from GitHub. So GitLab, it does have a pretty high EL score. Consistently, it does make pretty good moves on earnings. I will say anytime that I've traded it myself, it has disappointed. But maybe that's because I have the mark of death. I have no idea. I don't like GitLab. I don't like the company. I don't like the stock. I'm going to be fading this one right off the bat. I can pretty much tell you that right away. But if you do like some of these cheaper share prices, so GitLab coming in at like around almost $27 a share, this one might not be a bad option for you. If you need to play earnings every day and you like those cheaper stocks, GitLab might be a good one for you. Like I said, I'm going to fade it. 5 quarters out of the last 8, it has made a good move of 10% either up or down. I think last quarter it was down. Maybe the quarter before it was flat. It did make a pretty big down move recently. I don't know if it was last quarter or the quarter before. But regardless, here are your suggested strangles for GitLab. So the 30 call is getting some interest. It's 11.5% out of the money. The 25 put is getting some interest as well, some good volume over open interest. Both strikes are getting good volume over open interest, as you can see. The 25p is a little closer to the money. So to me, this looks like a bearish strangle. Kind of looks like traders are expecting GitLab to go down, and they're paying up a little bit more for the 25p. But I'm not gonna trade GitLab at all. If you do trade GitLab, I do think it makes sense in this case to strangle it. Right? It makes sense to buy the out of the money call and the out of the money put, just in case it goes the other direction that you're not anticipating. So GitLab does have a pretty decent EL score in that that's why you do want to take a strangle on it. Um, Good narrative intel. If GitLab does have good numbers, it's a stock that can move off of good numbers and good forward growth metrics. Um, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it to talk about with GitLab. It's a cheaper stock. So again, with a 10% move, you're looking at like a $2, maybe $3 move off of it. I don't like it myself. I don't like it personally. So I will fade, but I wouldn't be mad at someone if they're trading GitLab at all. CrowdStrike is our next option. Not really the highest EL score. You can see it only made 2 moves over 10% in the last 8 quarters. So the last 2 years, only 2 of those quarters, it's gone over 10% up or down. It is involved in a lot of the cybersecurity talk going on. So I think we've talked about it and touched on it in past lives recently. But Claude, Anthropic kind of came out with that fear-based narrative about them being able to take care of cybersecurity and that kind of thing. So you saw like PanW, Zscaler, Fortinet, Crowd, IBM. They all kind of took dips based off of that. I actually personally think Crowd is going to go up after earnings. I'm not trading it personally. If I was going to trade something like Crowd, or if I was going to trade off the heels of Crowd, I would probably choose a sympathy play, something like Fortinet, something like PanW, maybe Zscaler. But I think I personally would avoid trading CrowdStrike myself. Good narrative intel, right? It can definitely gap on good guidance, and it can actually re-rate the whole sector. As you can see here, there's sympathy to PanW, Zscaler, and Fortinet. So if this gets a bump, the rest of the sector is definitely getting a bump. If CrowdStrike takes a dip, the rest of the sector is definitely taking a dip. So might be one to play a sympathy stock off of. I think I personally like Fortinet the best. When I looked at it earlier, it was definitely moving up today. So maybe that's kind of like maybe that's some sort of premonition into what CrowdStrike is going to do. But regardless, I would avoid actual CrowdStrike and I would look at one of these sympathy plays. I like Fortinet the best, but that's just me. We'll take a look at the suggested strangles for CrowdStrike, and as you can see, they're pretty close to the money except for the put side. This tells me that traders are definitely banking on an up move from CrowdStrike, maybe not the biggest up move, because that 400 call is pretty close to current prices. And as you can see, that contract price is pretty pricey, but it does have good volume over open interest today, which tells you that traders are definitely banking on an up move from CrowdStrike. And I would imagine with that 350p and that $2.50 strike or $2.50 contract price, I would imagine those are probably purchased, probably to hedge the 400 call. So this to me looks like a bullish strangle. If you are going to trade CrowdStrike, now this is one of those stocks that you don't want to strangle. And the reason being, CrowdStrike has only made 2 moves over 10% in the last 2 years. So only 2 quarters it's gone up or down 10%. If you strangle this and it doesn't make a 10% move, you're toast. You're toast on both sides. You're going to get chopped on both sides. So pick a side with CrowdStrike, play small, play often, right? Don't go heavy, don't go crazy in it because it's not a consistent ER mover. If you have conviction and you know something I don't, like what we say, feel free to ignore me on that. But going into it, just looking at the technicals, I would say it's not one that you want to strangle. So play small on CrowdStrike, pick a side, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I like going for a sympathy play more so myself. So CrowdStrike to me looks up, and I personally would look at something like Fortinet calls to kind of be the sympathy play for CrowdStrike. We also have RYAM. I don't know anything about this company, and I'm going to avoid it. Not even going to look at it or open it up. It's too cheap. We'll look at Box. Box is a pretty cheap play, right? It's only $24 a share. And only 2 moves in the last 8 quarters over 10% up or down. It's got bad narrative intel. We're not really getting anything to go off of here. No real juice or anything. No catalysts for Box. Nothing really stands out. It's not really a sexy stock to me off of earnings. here's what we have as far as the option strangle for box. So the 25 call, pretty close to the money, and we have the 23 put, also pretty close to the money too. Both of those strikes are within 5% of the current price. So to me, I don't think box is going to make a meaningful move. And with that, we will move on. Remember, we're trying to find the stocks that have the highest potential for a move after earnings. That is the whole point, the whole goal of this website. And then once we do that, we take advantage of that with an out of the money option strangle. And that's kind of the best way to make money. That's how we made money on Credo this morning. If anyone took Credo with me, we did pretty well on that. Pat yourself on the back, round of applause. And also MongoDB. Unfortunately, Dave disappointed. But it is what it is. 2 out of 3 is not that bad. And those 2 were bangers. So that's what we have for this afternoon. Tomorrow morning, kind of some more appealing options, I would say. Abercrombie & Fitch, we have Wix, Bath & Body Works, and kind of 2 others that we don't really have to look at a lot, but we will just because we look at everything that I have written down here. So the first we'll look at is Abercrombie, A&F. Not the best EEO score, but also not the worst. It's kind of middling at that 50, giving it a grade of like a C+. Everyone should know Abercrombie & Fitch. I know it because I was one of the kids in high school that didn't wear Abercrombie & Fitch. I was one of the Airwalk and Vans kids with the baggy jeans and Timbs, wearing football jerseys every day to school. Speaking of which, wearing our football jersey today for Everton, who's playing right now, up 1-0. So we'll keep that train rolling. We'll get back to A&F. 4 moves out of 8 in the last 2 years. It's gone up or down 10%. It can move. It can definitely move if given the right news and the right catalysts and that kind of thing. I wouldn't say it's a must play, but if you're itching to play something on earnings, A&F would be one of the better options that's reporting this afternoon, tomorrow morning. So for me, it moves it to the top of my list immediately. Good narrative intel. It's a retail stock. It can definitely gap hard if we have a surprise either way. So we can gap up and we can gap down on A&F pretty easily. I want to say that the share float is pretty small. Yeah, so a 43 million share float is really not really small, but it's pretty small. And of course, as you guys know, the smaller the share float, the easier it is for that stock to move up and down in price, right? There's less shares that have to be purchased to move the price up, and there's less shares that have to be sold in order to move the price down. That can sometimes bite us. So if anyone traded Dave yesterday afternoon into this morning, you might have experienced that with Dave. So if that stock does not get enough liquidity, regardless of the share float, it's not going to move that well. So we do have to get a little liquidity injected in there for the move. But A&F is going to have volume. And I would say it's a good option to strangle this afternoon. We'll look at the suggested strikes. Nothing really appealing to me as far as these strike prices. We got the 120 call that's coming in. Volume is not over the open interest. And that's a really cheap contract. I would imagine those are probably sold. The 80 put is coming in. Both of these are for March 6th expiration. The 80 put is coming in at like 69 cents. Again, no volume over open interest there. And those are too far out of the money for me. I think those are both the call and the put. They look to me like they're being sold positions. So that tells me that A&F traders aren't really expecting a massive move from A&F. And so with that kind of shies me off of it. I'm going to fade A&F personally. But like I said, if you're itching to play something close to the money might benefit you with A&F. I'm just not really seeing anything that jumps out to me that makes it worth my money. So A&F is an option. Wix might be a little bit more appealing to me just because it's in the technology sector, and usually I personally have a little bit better luck with tech sector stocks. I don't know why, but I just think they tend to move a little bit better. Either way, Wix does have 4 quarters out of the last 8 that it's made a good move of 10% up or down. Anyone that I think most people know Wix, but Wix.com is kind of that online platform that lets you build websites and that kind of thing pretty easily, like drag and drop kind of stuff, no coding needed. I made a Wix website like years ago. I never look at it. I never use it. I kind of feel like it was a good a good stepping stone, so to speak, to something like WordPress or Drupal. And then after that, you start hard coding yourself. So Wix, I think I would be bearish on the whole business model as a whole. I kind of compare Wix to GoDaddy. I know they're obviously different companies, but they're kind of similar, right? They're both involved in like domains. They're both involved in a little bit of web design and web development without the knowledge or without the need to know a lot of coding. So I don't know. GoDaddy, I do know GoDaddy dipped. If it was I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but that one definitely did dip on earnings. So immediately I'm kind of thinking down for Wix. We do have a good narrative intel with Wix. If we have good guidance and bookings, we can definitely get a re-rate on Wix pretty quickly. And as a result, it is a gap candidate. The calls and the puts that are coming in that we're finding. So we're seeing the 85 call, which is pretty far, like almost 15% out of the money. It looks like Wix has monthlies. So these are March 20th expiration contracts. That 85 call being at like that $2.85 price, that tells me they're likely bought. I would just guess off the bat that those are purchased. Good volume over open interest. That means more traders came in today and bought and sold more contracts than were just chilling there on the chain to begin with. The 55p, 25% out of the money at 84 cents. That definitely looks like it's a sold position, or at least a majority sold. I mean, obviously there's a mix of bought and sold contracts in that like 664 OI plus 225 volume. But I would just looking at these numbers, they look to me like a sold position. So Wix does look like traders are thinking up for Wix. I think that this 85 call is a little too far out of the money, and I just don't know if it's worth getting into. But regardless, this is what we're pulling up, so maybe there is some truth to this one. I'm not really sure. I think I'm gonna fade Wix. I like Wix more than ANF. We'll come back to Wix. We definitely have a little bit more time. But Wix 85 calls, definitely what's popping on the website. And good volume over open interest for that one. So 85 call for Wix, that's what I would suggest if I had to absolutely make a choice, but I don't really like it, to be completely honest. Bath and Body Works, we'll look at it. Not a great narrative intel at all on BBWI. Pretty cheap stock, right? $22 a share. So a 10% move, you're looking at like a $2 up or $2 down move. So like a 24, 25 call, 20p, maybe 19p. 4 moves out of 8 quarters, it's gone up or down 10%. If you're gonna trade Bath and Body Works, it's kind of up to you if you want to strangle it. Anytime you see a moves 4 out of 8 or higher, I would just say, like, my conservative mind would just say, like, just strangle it just in case. But I think you're okay not strangling BBWI if you really want to. Not, like I said, not the greatest narrative intel. Definitely more of a consumer grinder. It's usually pretty range bound after earnings. This volume on the 20 put is pretty impressive. So, I mean, I don't know if those are bought or sold. They're not that far out of the money. So maybe they are bought. This 20p, it's only 10% out of the money. And I mean, actually, like, both of these strikes are exactly what we were talking about. 10% up and 10% down, almost on the dot. 24.50, that's 10% on the dot up. And the 20, that's a little over 10% out of the money down. But this volume over open interest on BBWI is very interesting to me. likely a mix of bought and sold. Um, and a pretty cheap contract. If you like playing cheap contracts, maybe look more into the BBWI puts. There might be something there with that volume over OI. Um, but yeah, right off the bat, I'm gonna fade this myself just because I only like playing the highest EL scores. That's just kind of my strategy. Obviously, every trader has a different strategy. And if you're a gunslinger cowboy type trader and you got money burning holes in your pockets, maybe throw some money on that 20p for BBWI. Kind of looks interesting. That's pretty much it for today. To be honest, there's not that much going on. We'll have much more to talk about tomorrow with Okta, Broadcom, Cracker Barrel, and then I think Thursday morning even has some pretty good ones. Um, but that's pretty much it for today. We don't have that much to go over. Uh, I already settled MongoDB for the Pick'em traders, and Timbo Flip made his way right back to the top. He went pretty heavy, it looks like, on Mongo. He put 2,000 down on Mongo, so he made 4,000 EL bucks. So congrats to Timbo. He's back there at the top of the leaderboard. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it for today. We won't take up too much time. I'm gonna get off here and look at some individual trades. Maybe I'll look at some sympathies off of CrowdStrike. Like I said, I kind of like Fortinet, so I might get some Fortinet calls, or one or two contracts just to feel something. But all in all, I would say this is a good day to probably fade EarningsLottos, as sad as that sounds. There was a huge drop this morning. There's a lot of geopolitical BS still going on. But either way, GitLab, your higher score reporting, and then tomorrow morning, ANF and Wix. So I would say GitLab, ANF, and Wix are probably your best options, with maybe like a CrowdStrike sympathy play on like a Fortinet or Zscaler or a PanW. So that's really all I have for today. Tomorrow I will try to get on a little earlier. We'll try to do a full hour, so from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you guys have if anyone's watching and has questions or wants me to look at any specific earning stocks or really any stocks in general, I'm happy to look at that stuff and offer my opinion. I don't know how helpful or useful it will be, but I know having another person to bounce ideas off of is always a good thing. So with that said, best of luck tomorrow morning. I hope everyone makes money. And if you don't know what to play, it's okay to not trade anything today. I think it's definitely okay to take a break. Don't trade any EarningsLottos. There are definitely better options tomorrow afternoon as well as Thursday afternoon. So I will hopefully be back here tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely Thursday afternoon. Again, like and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel, please. It helps me. It lets me know that people like this kind of content. You guys are watching. I really enjoy doing it. It actually helps me with my own trades. And like I say every time, the goal is just to make sure that we can take advantage of the best earning stocks, find the biggest movers, and then obviously make money off of those. That's the goal. So have a great rest of your day. Good luck tomorrow. And I will see you all when I see you. If not tomorrow, then definitely Thursday. Go Everton.